Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I used to think I was good at reading people. You know that gut feeling you get when someone's not quite right? I used to trust mine. I used to think it would protect me. That was before I met Caleb. Before the messages. Before the sleepless nights. Before I learned that some people don't just love you, they consume you. It all started in early 2019. I had just moved to Boulder, Colorado after ending a long, messy relationship back home in Arizona. I wanted a fresh start. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment on Pine Street. Cheap, quiet, and close enough to my new job at a marketing firm that I could walk there every morning. It was around that time I started frequenting a local coffee shop called Maple and Steam. That's where I met Caleb. He worked the register most mornings, tall and soft-spoken, the kind of guy who looked like he'd rather disappear into the wall than make small talk. But every time I went in, he'd have my order memorized. Iced. Vanilla latte, oat milk, extra shot. It was flattering, honestly. One morning after I'd spilled coffee on myself trying to juggle my laptop and breakfast sandwich, he chuckled softly and said, "Rough morning, huh? Happens to the best of us." I smiled awkwardly, dabbing at my shirt with napkins. "Yeah, you could say that. Mondays and I aren't friends." He grinned. "Well, I'll make this one on the house. Looks like you deserve a redo." That was the first time we talked beyond the usual exchange of order and payment. The second time he slipped a note on my cup sleeve that said, "Hope today's better than yesterday. See?" I won't lie. It made my stomach flutter. I'd been lonely since the move, and his kindness felt genuine. Over the next few weeks, our conversations grew. We'd talk about music, books, dumb work stories. He had this quiet charm and a way of listening that made you feel seen. So when he asked me out one afternoon, something casual, dinner and a movie, it didn't feel strange. It felt normal. Our first date was easy, comfortable. He asked questions, laughed at my sarcasm, and never once looked at his phone. When he dropped me off, he didn't try to come in, just said, "I had a great time. Hope we can do this again." That night I texted my best friend. "He's actually really sweet. Maybe too sweet." Looking back, that line makes my stomach turn. For the first few months, Caleb was attentive. He'd leave flowers at my door, text me, "Good morning," call before bed. It felt like something out of a rom-com. But the sweetness didn't stay soft for long. It got sticky, heavy. It started small. "Hey, you didn't text me back last night. Everything okay?" Then, "Why didn't you answer my call? You said you weren't busy." Then, "Who were you with?" I brushed it off as clinginess. I told myself he just cared too much. That's what everyone says before things get dark. One night after I went out with coworkers, I came home to find Caleb sitting on the steps outside my apartment. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey, I just wanted to make sure you got home safe." My heart skipped. "You didn't need to do that, Caleb." "I'm fine. I just worry about you," he said. "You said you'd be home by 10. I checked my phone, 10:42 p.m. "Yeah, we lost track of time, no big deal." He smiled again, but this one didn't reach his eyes. "Okay, just don't leave me hanging next time, all right?" Something in his tone made my skin crawl. After that, I started seeing the cracks. He'd show up to my work, just to say hi. If I didn't answer his text right away, I'd get strings of messages. "Are you mad? What did I do? Please talk to me." He'd question every guy I talked to, even my coworker Liam, who was married with 2 kids. One evening, I finally confronted him after he showed up outside my office again. "Caleb, this has to stop," I said. "You can't keep showing up everywhere I go." His face dropped like I'd just kicked a puppy. "I just wanted to see you," he murmured. "You've been distant lately." "Because you're scaring me," I snapped. "You track everything I do. You don't even ask if it's okay, you just do it." He blinked, genuinely confused. "I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" He didn't answer. Just stared at me with this flat, unreadable expression before whispering, "You'll see?" I walked away then, shaking. That was the last time I saw him face to face. Or at least that's what I thought. A week later, I blocked his number. I told my boss what was happening, told the barista at Maple and Steam not to let him near me if he showed up again. I even changed my route to work, but it didn't stop. The first night I realized he wasn't gone, I woke up at 2:30 a.m. to my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You looked beautiful in blue today." My stomach dropped. I had worn a blue dress to work. I blocked the number, but 5 minutes later, another one came. Blocking me won't change how I feel. I barely slept that night. I checked every lock twice, shoved a chair under the door and left all the lights on. The next morning, I found a single Polaroid photo slid under my apartment door. It was me, taken from a distance, as I was unlocking my door the day before. Went straight to the police. They filed a report, but there wasn't much they could do without proof it was him. "Keep your doors locked, stay alert," the officer said. "If you see him in person again, call us immediately." I wanted to scream. What did they think I'd do? Invite him in for coffee? That night, my friend Lila insisted I stay at her place. She didn't have to ask twice. We made frozen pizza and watched bad TV, trying to laugh about anything that wasn't my situation. But even there, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. At one point, I went to the kitchen for more wine and saw something outside the window, just a silhouette near the tree line. When I blinked, it was gone. "Lila," I whispered. "Do you have any cameras outside?" "No, why?" I didn't answer. 2 nights later, I went back to my own apartment to grab clothes and mail. It was about 8 p.m., already dark. The hallway lights flickered when I unlocked the door, which felt like something out of a bad horror film. I walked in cautiously, my pepper spray in one hand, my phone in the other. The apartment was still. Too still. I noticed something right away. My bedroom light was on. I was sure I had turned it off when I left. I swallowed hard and stepped inside. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. "Is someone here?" Silence. I took a few steps forward, and that's when I saw it. On my nightstand, a new Polaroid. Me again, this time sleeping at Lila's house. I dropped my phone. After that, I stayed with my parents in Arizona for a while. I changed my number, deleted social media, even dyed my hair darker. For a couple of months, it was quiet. I started breathing again, until last Tuesday. I got home from work, threw my bag on the couch and opened my mail. Among the bills was an envelope with no return address. Inside was another Polaroid, me again, standing in my kitchen, wearing the same outfit I had on that day. My phone buzzed right then, a text from a new number. "You left the window unlocked." I froze. I hadn't checked the window since coming home. My body went cold. I turned toward the kitchen, and there it was. The window over the sink opened just an inch, swaying softly in the breeze. That's when I grabbed my car keys and ran. I didn't even stop to lock the door behind me. I drove straight to the police station, shaking so hard I could barely hold the steering wheel. They sent an officer to sweep my apartment. He found footprints under the window. Bare feet. They believe he's been coming and going for weeks, watching me. Waiting. It's been over a week now. I'm staying with my sister, but I can't sleep. I hear things at night. Soft creaks. Shuffling sounds that make me want to crawl out of my skin. Every time I close my eyes, I see that open window. I see the flash of the Polaroid camera. I've moved twice since then. I've changed my phone, my job, my routines. But last night I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. It only said one thing. "I miss the way you sleep." And attached to it, and it was a photo. Me again. Taken through my bedroom window. I used to think breakups were just part of growing up. You date, you fight, you drift apart, you move on. That's what I thought would happen when I ended things with Lily. But I've learned that some people don't let go. They don't move on. They don't forgive. They watch. When I met Lily, I wasn't even looking for anything serious. It was a random Thursday night at a friend's birthday thing at this small bar just outside Tulsa. I was a mechanic by day, exhausted most nights, but my buddy Eric insisted I show up. He said I'd been acting like an old man lately. Lily showed up halfway through the night with one of Eric's coworkers. She wasn't the type to blend in. She had this quiet confidence, the kind that pulls attention without asking for it. Wavy brown hair, hazel eyes that seemed to study everything around her. She laughed like she meant it. We started talking over cheap beer and bar fries, and she made it feel like we'd known each other for years. She said she worked as a nurse but wanted to get into photography. We talked about music, road trips, even what scares us most. She said hers was being forgotten. Mine was being trapped. I didn't realize at the time how that conversation would circle back months later in a way that would ruin sleep for me permanently. At first, dating Lily felt easy. We texted constantly, sent each other memes, FaceTimed almost every night. She'd show up at my garage sometimes with coffee, always with that big smile. The guys at work teased me about it. "Damn, Nate," Eric said once, "she's got you on a leash already." I laughed it off. But there was something about her. She had this intensity that was flattering at first. She paid attention to details. She'd notice the smallest things, like how I took my coffee or the way I always cracked my knuckles when I was stressed. She'd leave handwritten notes in my jacket pockets, sometimes just small things like, "Hope your day's good, handsome." It made me feel seen, until it didn't. About 3 months in, the tone started to change. It wasn't obvious at first. She'd get quiet if I didn't text back fast enough. Once, I told her I was staying late at the shop to finish a transmission job, and when I finally got home around 10 p.m., she was waiting in her car outside my apartment. When I asked how long she'd been there, she smiled and said, "Just long. Enough to know you weren't lying." That sentence never left me. I brushed it off, though. I told myself she was just insecure. Everyone's got baggage, right? But as weeks passed, the pattern grew worse. She'd call over and over if I didn't answer, leave dozens of messages. First worried, then angry, then apologetic. One night, I was out with my friends watching a Thunder game and my phone buzzed nonstop. I ignored it for a while, but when I checked, there were 26 missed calls and 18 texts. The last one said, "If you don't want me in your life, just say it. I can disappear." When I got home, she was sitting on my front steps, mascara streaked, down her cheeks holding a takeout bag. I remember the conversation word for word. "Lily, you can't keep doing this," she sniffled. Doing what? Showing up uninvited, calling nonstop. It's not okay. She stared at me for a long second, then said quietly, "You make it sound like I'm crazy." I didn't know how to respond. She stood up, brushed her hair out of her face, and whispered, "I just care more than you do." Then she kissed me and walked off. I should have ended things right then, but I didn't. Over time, she got better, or at least she made me think she did. Fewer calls, fewer guilt trips. I convinced myself we were turning a corner. Then one night, about a year into dating, I woke up around 2:30 a.m. and saw a notification light up my phone. It was a photo from Lily. It was me, asleep in bed. I froze. My stomach turned ice cold. I texted her, "What the hell is this? Were you in my apartment?" No reply. I called her, shaking, and when she finally picked up, her voice was calm. Too calm. "I wanted to see you. You didn't answer my texts." "Lily, it's 2 a.m. How did you even get in?" She laughed softly. "You shouldn't hide your spare key under the plant, Nate. That's the first place anyone would look." I couldn't even speak. I just hung up, walked to the front door, and checked the lock. The key was gone. The next day, I changed the locks, moved the spare, and told her we needed space. That night, she showed up again, pounding on my door for nearly an hour, alternating between crying, apologizing, and screaming. When I finally opened the door, she was sitting on the ground in her hoodie, shaking. "Why are you doing this to me?" she asked softly. "I just love you. Why are you being so cold?" "I can't do this anymore, Lily. You need help." Her face went blank. You think I'm crazy? I hesitated. That was my mistake. She stood up close enough that I could smell the peppermint gum she always chewed and whispered, "If you ever leave me, you'll regret it." Then she walked away into the dark. I blocked her on everything the next morning. Social media, number, email, everything. I even told Eric, who said, "Man, you should go to the cops, that's not normal." But what was I supposed to say? My girlfriend texted me a picture of myself sleeping. It sounded insane. For a while, things were quiet. I started sleeping better. I even started jogging in the mornings again. Then one day I came home and noticed something off. The framed photo of my mom and me that used to sit on the counter was gone. I searched everywhere, under the couch, behind the fridge, even the trash. Nowhere. That same night I got an email from a random address. The subject line said, "I kept this safe for you." Inside was a picture of the photo, sitting on what looked like her kitchen table. I didn't even reply. I forwarded it straight to myself just in case, then deleted the original. I changed my number again, blocked the email, and thought about calling the cops, but honestly, what could they do? She hadn't technically broken any law. Still, I started noticing weird things, stuff just slightly out of place when I got home. A chair moved, the TV remote on the wrong table, my shower curtain drawn when I always left it open. I thought, maybe I was losing it. Then about 6 weeks later, I found a small Polaroid on my windshield after work. It was me, walking out of the garage holding a soda, head turned slightly like I was mid-step. On the back, in neat handwriting, "Still my favorite walk." That night, I didn't sleep at all. I kept the lights on and the baseball bat by my bed. I finally decided to move, packed everything into my old truck, broke the lease, and got an apartment 2 hours away in Wichita. For months, things were good. Normal. I met people. I went out. I even started seeing someone new. A teacher named Erin. She was calm, steady, the total opposite of Lily. I didn't tell her about the past. I didn't want to ruin something that felt peaceful. But one night, Erin stayed over and I woke up to find her sitting up in bed, pale. "Hey, what's wrong?" I asked. She pointed to the window. "Did you leave that open?" The latch was undone. The curtain swayed in the night breeze. I got up, walked over, and froze. There, tucked under the window frame, was a single Polaroid. It was Erin, taken that same night, sleeping next to me. On the back, "You look happy. I can fix that." We went to the police the next morning. They took it seriously this time, filed a report, sent a patrol car by every night for a week, but there wasn't much they could do. No fingerprints, no proof it was Lily. Erin moved out after 2 weeks. I didn't blame her. Who would want to stay in that kind of fear? The nights after she left were the worst. Every sound felt amplified. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, the faint buzz of the streetlight outside. Then one night around 3:40 a.m., I woke up to music. My old playlist, one I hadn't used in over a year, playing from my Bluetooth speaker across the room. It was a song Lily used to send me every night. "Until You're Mine." The sound wasn't even loud, but it was enough to make my heart stop. I got up slowly, grabbed the bat, and crept toward the speaker. The screen said, "Connected. Lily's iPhone." My throat went dry. I yanked the plug from the wall, grabbed my phone, and called 911. The dispatcher kept me calm while they sent a unit. When officers arrived, they checked every inch of the apartment, nothing. But when one of them stepped outside, he paused. On my porch railing sat a small wooden box. Inside were dozens of Polaroids. All of me. Sleeping, eating, showering, walking. Every single day of my life, documented. The last one, though, was different. It was taken from inside the apartment. I was standing in front of the mirror brushing my teeth. The reflection in the photo showed something I hadn't seen that night. Her, standing in the doorway, smiling. It's been 9 months since then. I moved again, changed jobs, new city, new everything. I don't post online, I don't date. I barely sleep. But sometimes when I leave work and head to my truck, I get that feeling again. That crawling awareness that someone's watching. I don't know if she's still out there. All I know is every time I walk past a window, I can't help but glance at my reflection, just to make sure there isn't another face behind me. Because I swear, sometimes I see her smile. I was 15 that Halloween, and I swear it's the one night that still makes my stomach tighten every time I see a plastic knife at a costume store. We had just moved to Maple Ridge, a quiet suburban neighborhood in northern Colorado. The kind where every house looks like it came out of a real estate brochure. Perfect lawns, pumpkins on porches, fairy lights wrapped around trees. Mom said it was a fresh start. Dad had gotten a better job with the county, and I guess she thought a smaller town would be safer for my little sister, Lila. Lila was 6, wild with excitement that week. She'd been talking about Halloween nonstop since September. This year, she wanted to be a butterfly. Mom spent 3 nights sewing her a set of wings from blue silk, and I swear she twirled in front of every mirror in the house once she put them on. I'd promised my parents I'd take her trick-or-treating while they stayed behind to hand out candy. I didn't mind, really. After everything we'd been through the year before, the move, the tension in the house, it felt good to see her happy. "Hey, Bug, you ready?" I called from the hallway. "Ready," she shouted, her voice full of energy. She ran out, wings fluttering behind her. "Do I look like a real butterfly?" "You look better than the real ones," I said with a grin, straightening the crooked headband on her hair. She beamed, clutching her little pumpkin bucket. "You look silly, though." I looked down at my costume, a beat-up zombie pirate outfit from last year that smelled faintly like attic dust. Yeah, well, scary's the point. Mom came out of the kitchen holding her phone and giving me that "you better behave" look. "Don't go past Maple and Birch, okay? Stay where the streetlights are bright. And keep an eye on your sister, Noah." "I got her," I said, grabbing Lila's hand. "We'll be back before 10. Dad chuckled from the porch. "Bring me a Snickers, Captain." "Only if you say R," I shot back. He laughed and waved us off. The air had that crisp October chill that smells like cold leaves and caramel. Kids ran in every direction, costumes flashing under porch lights. Ghosts, witches, Spider-Men, voices echoed everywhere. It felt safe, normal. Lila was glowing, doing this little curtsy every time someone dropped candy in her bucket. "Thank you, ma'am," she'd chirp, wings bouncing behind her. People smiled, some even took pictures. We hit about 10 houses before she tugged my sleeve, eyes wide. "Noah, look! They gave me a big one." She held up a full-size Hershey's bar like it was treasure. "Lucky," I said. "Guess who's guarding that for you till we get home?" She pouted. "You always eat my good candy." Before I could answer, I noticed something down the street under the next streetlight. Man stood there. He was tall, at least 6'3", wearing a dark coverall and a white mask. It wasn't a cheap one either. It looked eerily like Michael Myers, expressionless, smooth, blank eyes. He wasn't moving. Just standing perfectly still, facing our direction. I blinked. Maybe someone's dad messing around. Every Halloween, there's that one guy who takes it too far, right? But there was something off. He wasn't talking to anyone, not taking pictures, not walking up to any house, just standing there under that buzzing streetlight like a damn statue. "Noah," Lila whispered, tugging on my sleeve. "Why's that man not getting candy?" I forced a chuckle. Maybe he's just, waiting for his kids. I looked again. There were no kids near him. We moved on to the next few houses, but every time I turned back, he was still there. Same distance behind us, same posture. After about 15 minutes, my stomach started to knot. I couldn't tell if it was nerves or instinct. "Hey, Bug," I said gently. "How about we head home for a bit? We can come back out later with Mom and Dad." "But I'm not tired," she said, bouncing. "I still want to go to the haunted house 1. "Yeah, but let's grab a drink first, okay?" She groaned but nodded. We turned back toward our street. That's when I heard it. Footsteps behind us, slow, heavy, crunching through the leaves. I turned my head just enough to look. He was following us now, not hiding it anymore. Every hair on my neck stood up. "Lila," I said quietly, "we're gonna walk a little faster, okay?" "Why?" "Just trust me." I picked up the pace. The footsteps behind us did too. Lila looked back and gasped, "He's coming!" I didn't look again. I just grabbed her hand and whispered, "Run." We took off down the street, her wings flapping wildly. She was crying now, her little sneakers slapping against the pavement. Behind us, the sound changed. He was running. Fast. His boots pounded the ground, getting louder. Closer. I risked one glance and saw something metallic catch the light, a huge kitchen knife glinting under the street lamp. "Keep running, Bug. Don't stop." We were just a few houses from ours when her wing snagged on a bush. She fell hard, crying out. I scooped her up without slowing down. My arms screamed from the effort, but adrenaline carried me. He was close. I could hear his breathing now, ragged through that mask. Our porch came into view. I nearly tripped trying to reach the steps. My hands fumbled with the doorknob. The door finally swung open. I shoved Lila inside and slammed it shut, twisting the locks. Mom appeared from the kitchen, startled. "What on earth?" "There's a man. He followed us. He's outside. He's got a knife." Dad jumped up from the couch, grabbing his old metal flashlight and a wrench from the counter. "Stay here," he ordered, throwing the door open before I could stop him. "Dad, don't!" But he was already outside, scanning the street. I grabbed the curtain and peeked through. The man was gone. The only thing moving was the wind stirring the leaves. Dad walked down the driveway, looked both ways, then turned back. His jaw was tight. He came back inside, locked the door. "You sure about what you saw?" "Yes. He was right there, following us." Mom was already on the phone with 911. The operator said they'd send a car around. The police came about 20 minutes later. 2 officers took our statements, walked up and down the block, checked backyards. Nothing. One of them, older guy with a thick mustache, tried to calm me down. "You probably just saw someone playing a prank. It's Halloween. People do stupid stuff," but I saw it in his eyes. He didn't quite believe that either. When they left, Lila refused to sleep alone. Mom sat with her until she finally passed out, clutching her butterfly wings. I couldn't sleep at all. Every sound outside made me jump. At dawn, Dad went to get the paper. 5 seconds later, I heard him yell. I ran out and saw it. Our mailbox had deep gashes carved into the metal. Clean, deliberate slashes, like someone had stabbed it. Dad stared for a long time, face pale. "That wasn't there last night." We called the police again. They took pictures, said they'd file it for record, but nothing ever came of it. 2 weeks later, Dad put the house up for sale. He told everyone it was because of a shorter commute. We moved out before Christmas. Sometimes I still drive past that old house. The new family painted the mailbox, but if you look close, you can still see the dents. And every year when the pumpkins start showing up on porches, I catch myself checking the streetlights, just to make sure no one's standing there, waiting. Because I'll never forget that mask or the sound of those footsteps getting closer. I never really thought much about online dating. It always felt like one of those things people did when they ran out of options. When bars got too loud, friends stopped setting you up, and your coworkers started pairing off and moving away. That's where I was when I downloaded Hinge for the first time. Lonely, bored, and a little curious. It was the winter after my breakup with Jonah. I was 24, working as a barista at a small coffee shop in Easton, Ohio. My best friend, Paige, kept telling me I needed to get back out there, so one night, half drunk on boxed wine and Netflix reruns, I made a profile. That's how I met Grayson. His profile seemed normal. Photos with his dog, a couple hiking shots, one of him at a baseball game. His prompts were kind of corny, but not in a bad way. The way to my heart is good coffee and sarcasm. My mom says I'm a good listener. The usual. He messaged me first. "Grayson, you look like the kind of person who orders plain. Black coffee but secretly likes pumpkin spice. Me. Bold of you to assume I'm basic. Grayson. Not basic, just seasonal. He was funny, charming even. We talked for 3 days before he asked to meet in person. Our first date was at a little cafe downtown. I remember he showed up 5 minutes early, holding a bouquet of daisies. Not roses, daisies. He said they felt less pressury. I laughed, and he smiled like he'd just won something. He was polite, attentive, the kind of guy who asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He had this deep, calming voice, the kind that made you feel safe without realizing why. We went on our second date the following week, drinks at a bar near the river. He told me about his job, in IT, his family in Indiana, and how his last relationship ended because his ex didn't know what she wanted. He never badmouthed her, just sighed like it still hurt him. I liked him. I wasn't falling, but I liked him. Our third date was dinner at an Italian restaurant. That's when something felt different, subtle, but off. The waiter came by and asked if we were ready to order. I wasn't done looking, so I said, "Give me 1 more minute." Grayson chuckled, but there was something tight in his expression, like impatience. When the waiter left, he said, "You always take your time with decisions, huh?" "Yeah," I said lightly. "I like to know what I'm getting." He nodded, smiling, but didn't look away. Just stared. Too long. I brushed it off. Later that night, after he walked me to my car, he leaned in for a kiss. It wasn't bad, just mechanical. Like he was checking something off a list. That night, he texted me, "You looked beautiful tonight. I can't stop thinking about you." It was sweet. Maybe too sweet for someone I'd only seen 3 times. By our 4th date, I knew something was off. We met for drinks again. He drank faster than usual, ordered doubles, started touching my arm and leg more than before. I didn't say anything at first, and I didn't want to make it weird, but when he tried to kiss me at the bar, I pulled back. He laughed, but it didn't sound like a laugh, more like an exhale through his teeth. "What? You don't like me anymore?" "It's not that," I said. "Just not big on PDA." He nodded, jaw tight. "Right. You like things private." We left soon after. Outside, the night was cold and quiet. The streetlights flickered orange. As we walked to our cars, he said, "You could come over, just for a bit." "I can't," I said. "I have work early." "You said you had tomorrow off." I froze. I had mentioned that, casually, on our second date. But the way he said it, it wasn't casual. "I'm just tired," I said, unlocking my car. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You don't have to lie, Aaron." My stomach dropped. "I'm not," I said quietly. He smiled, small, sharp. "All right. Drive safe." I got in my car and drove off. The moment I hit the next street, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. Same make, same color as his car. At first, I told myself it was a coincidence, then I made a left turn. He made the same. I switched lanes. So did he. I texted him, "Are you following me?" His reply came fast. "Yeah, just making sure you get home okay." I didn't answer. I pulled into a gas station and parked under a light. He drove past, finally disappearing down the road. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, he texted again. "Hope I didn't freak you out last night. I just worry, you know. You're too trusting." I didn't respond. 2 days later, flowers showed up at my apartment door, white tulips and a handwritten note. "Sorry if I scared you. I just care. Let me make it up to you. Dinner at my place?" That was when my stomach really turned. I hadn't given him my address. I texted
him, "Please don't come to my place again."
"This is too much." No response. That night I kept checking the window. Every time a car drove by, my heart jumped. Paige came over the next morning, and when I told her, she looked pale. "Aaron," she said, "that's not normal. You should Call the cops. I don't want to overreact, she sighed. He found where you live, that's not overreacting. I filed a report that afternoon. The officer, a tired-looking woman named Morales, said she'd keep it on record, but there wasn't much they could do unless he made a threat or trespassed. For a few days, things were quiet. No calls, no texts, no flowers. Then one night, around 1 a.m., I woke up to a faint buzzing sound. My phone. No caller ID. I declined it. It rang again and again, over and over, until finally I turned it off and shoved it under my pillow. The next morning, there was a note taped to my car windshield. You shouldn't ignore people who care about you. I called the police again. Same answer, and they couldn't trace it. Paige started staying over more often. I didn't like being alone, but one Thursday night she had to work late and my parents were out of town. It was just me in that small 2-bedroom apartment. I went to bed around midnight, leaving a small lamp on. Around 2:30 a.m. I woke to a sound, faint, deliberate. A door hinge creaking. The bathroom door was cracked open. I hadn't left it that way. My throat tightened. I reached for my phone on the nightstand and froze. It wasn't there. It was on the floor. Screen lit up. No caller ID. The ringing stopped. Silence. Then, a whisper. A man's voice. Close. Aaron. I held my breath. Every instinct told me not to move, not to make a sound. Footsteps shuffled across the carpet. Closer. My mind screamed, hide, but I was too terrified to move. Then the voice came again, low and almost gentle. You shouldn't have blocked me. My blood ran cold. I forced myself to slide off the bed quietly, crawling toward the closet. My hands shook so badly that the hangers rattled as I pushed them aside. I curled behind a box, heart hammering. He moved around the room, slow, methodical. Drawers opened. Closet doors creaked. I could see his shoes through the gap, muddy sneakers. Then silence. A weight sank onto the bed above me. He sat there, breathing, waiting. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, I heard him whisper again, this time softer. You're making me do this, Aaron. Tears streamed down my face. I bit my hand to stay quiet. The floorboards creaked. Then, the front door opened, slammed shut. I stayed there shaking for nearly 20 minutes before crawling out and dialing 911. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. They searched every corner, but he was gone. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry. Every window was unlocked. He had planned it. After that, I moved back in with my parents, got a restraining order. The police said they'd patrol near the house. For a while, things calmed down. Then, one afternoon, I was walking out of the grocery store when I noticed a car idling across the street. Silver sedan, tinted windows. A man inside wearing a baseball cap. I couldn't see his face, but I knew. I went back inside and asked the manager to walk me to my car. When I looked again, the sedan was gone. That night, Paige came over again. You should move, she said. He's not going to stop. I can't just leave, I said. My job, my family. Aaron, he's watching you. I did move. 2 months later, 3 towns over. New apartment, new number, new job. For almost a year, nothing happened. Until last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Me, standing in my new apartment doorway, holding groceries. On the back, in neat handwriting, you look happier here. I dropped the photo, shaking. I called the police again. They said they'd open an investigation, but I knew how this goes. No prints, no name, no trail. Every night since then, I've double-locked every door and window. I keep my phone on silent because the sound of it ringing makes me sick. Sometimes I think I hear footsteps outside, faint, patient, like someone who's in no rush. And every now and then I find white tulip petals scattered on my porch. I don't sleep much anymore, because no matter where I go, I know he's watching. I grew up in a quiet town in western Pennsylvania called Maple Hollow, one of those places that people drive through without ever noticing. We had a grocery store that closed at 9, a single gas station that doubled as a diner, and streets that went dark after 10 p.m. You could hear the trains moan from miles away, and most nights that was the only sound that broke the stillness. When I was 17, my life revolved around three things: school, work, and trying to avoid awkward family dinners. My dad was a mechanic, my mom taught second grade, and I had a little brother named Dylan who thought he was too cool for everything. We lived on a quiet cul-de-sac called Willow Bend, a place so peaceful that our neighbor once bragged he'd never had to lock his front door in 30 years. That changed the summer the Hawthorns moved in. It was late June of 2016, one of those evenings when the air smelled like grilled corn and the sound of lawn sprinklers carried down the street. I remember because Mom came bursting into the living room with a smile. "New neighbors moved in next door," she said, already holding a casserole dish. "Let's go introduce ourselves." Dad grunted from the couch. "You mean you'll introduce us and I'll stand there holding a plate like an idiot?" Mom rolled her eyes. "Be nice, Rick. They seem friendly. Husband, wife, and a teenage boy." I didn't think much of it then. Maple Hollow didn't get new families often. People stayed until they died or until their houses fell apart. That evening we walked over carrying Mom's famous baked ziti. Their house was identical to ours. Beige siding, white shutters, same porch swing. A tall man in his 40s answered the door first. He was clean-cut, with wire-rimmed glasses and a calm smile. "Hey there," he greeted. "You must be the neighbors." Mom grinned. "Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Karen, this is my husband Rick, my daughter Leah, and my son Dylan." "Pleasure," the man said, shaking hands. "I'm Alan, and this is my wife, Beth." Beth appeared behind him. Something about her smile felt off. Too rehearsed, maybe. Her eyes darted between us quickly like she was memorizing our faces. "And this is our son, Ryan," Alan added. A boy about my age stepped into view. He had long brown hair that fell into his eyes and hands shoved deep in his hoodie pocket despite the heat. He gave a small nod but didn't say a word. "Ryan just started his senior year online," Alan explained. "Bit of an introvert." Mom beamed at him. "That's okay. Leah's a junior. Maybe you two will have some classes together if you go to Maple High next year." Ryan's eyes flicked to mine for half a second, then down to the ground. We had dinner in their backyard that night, burgers, chips, and Alan's awkward dad jokes. Beth didn't talk much and Ryan barely spoke at all. When he did, his voice was flat like he was forcing every word. "So, Leah," he said quietly when our parents were distracted, "you live next door?" "Yeah," I said, sipping my soda. "That house with the blue shutters." He nodded slowly, almost too long. "I can see your window from mine." I laughed awkwardly, thinking he was joking, but he didn't smile. After a few more minutes, I excused myself to go home. The conversation had felt heavy, and I didn't like how his gaze lingered as I walked away. For a week or so, I didn't think much about the Hawthorns. Then one morning on my way to school, I noticed Ryan standing at the edge of their driveway. He wasn't doing anything, just staring at our house. When I passed him, he said nothing. I muttered a polite "hey," but he didn't respond. He just kept his eyes on me, head tilted slightly like he was trying to read something written on my skin. At school, I told my friend Erin about it. "New neighbor guy?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe he's just awkward." "Yeah, but it's weird, like, too quiet. He doesn't blink much," she laughed. "You're being dramatic. You've watched too many true crime shows." Maybe she was right. That weekend, I was doing homework on the patio when I looked up and froze. Across the fence through the Hawthorns' upstairs window, Ryan was sitting by the glass and staring straight at me. He didn't move, didn't flinch when I made eye contact, just sat there watching. I grabbed my books and went inside, my heart racing. When I told Mom, she frowned. "Leah, honey, he's probably just curious. Some kids have trouble socializing. His parents mentioned he's been through some therapy." "I don't care, Mom. He was watching me. I'll talk to his mother tomorrow, okay?" I nodded, but I could tell from her tone she didn't think it was serious. The next few days, I started noticing little things. The feeling of eyes on me while walking home. The shadow in their upstairs window. The faint creak of gravel when I took the trash out at night. One evening around midnight, I was brushing my teeth when I heard something outside my window. A faint tapping. I froze. The tapping came again, soft and deliberate. I edged toward the blinds and peeked out. Nothing, just darkness. But then I saw movement. Someone ducking behind the side of our house. Dad. I yelled, nearly choking on my toothpaste. He came running in wearing sweatpants. What's going on? There's someone outside. He grabbed a flashlight and went out the back door. I waited by the kitchen window, heart hammering. A moment. Later his light swept across the yard, then the fence. Nothing. Probably a raccoon, he said when he came back in, shaking his head. Go to bed, kiddo. But I knew it wasn't a raccoon. The next morning when I stepped out for school, something white caught my eye near the porch steps. A folded piece of notebook paper weighed down by a small stone. I picked it up. Inside, written in uneven handwriting, were 4 words. I like your hair. No signature. My stomach twisted. That afternoon, I walked straight to the Hawthorns' house and knocked. Alan answered, surprised to see me. Hey, Leah, everything all right? Is Ryan home? I asked. Alan hesitated. He's resting right now. Why? I just wanted to tell you something. I held up the note. I think he left this on our porch. He blinked, confused, then frowned. Ryan's not supposed to go out without us knowing. I'll talk to him. I'm not mad, I said quickly. I just want it to stop. Alan nodded, looking embarrassed. I understand. I'm sorry, Leah, he's going through some things. When I got home, Mom was already waiting in the kitchen. Alan called, she said softly. He apologized. He said Ryan's been adjusting to some new medication. Try not to worry, okay? But I did worry, because that night when I checked my phone before bed, I saw a new Instagram request. A profile with no picture, no posts, just the name watching from here. I didn't accept it. I blocked it instantly. The next morning, it reappeared, under a new name. Weeks passed. I stopped sitting on the patio, stopped walking to school. Dad started driving me. I kept my curtains closed, but sometimes I'd wake up at night and see a shadow outside, still and patient. One afternoon, while doing laundry, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. One of my shirts, a pale yellow one I wore the day we met the Hawthorns, was missing. I tore through my drawers. Gone. That evening when I glanced out the window, I saw Ryan in their yard, wearing that exact shirt. I gasped. I called Mom, but by the time she came, he was gone. Leah, please, she sighed. You've been stressed lately. Maybe it's a similar shirt. It was mine. The sleeve had a bleach stain. I saw it. She rubbed my shoulder. I'll talk to his parents again. That night, I locked my door for the first time. 2 days later, everything unraveled. It was a Thursday. Mom was grading papers at the kitchen table. Dad was working late, and Dylan was at a sleepover. Around 10, I got a text from Aaron. Movie night tomorrow? I smiled, replied yes, and set my phone down. Then, a sound, a soft click from my window. My chest tightened. Slowly, I turned off my lamp. The room went dark except for the faint glow from the streetlight outside. The window latch moved again. Then it slid open. My heart nearly exploded. A hand appeared, pale, trembling, followed by a face. Ryan. He climbed through slowly, barefoot, whispering, "Don't scream." But I screamed anyway. Mom burst into the room as Ryan stepped fully inside, holding something. A kitchen knife. My own knife, from our drawer downstairs. Jesus Christ, Mom shouted. Rick, get in here. I backed against the wall, trembling. Ryan's eyes were wide, frantic. I just wanted to talk, he said. His voice cracked. You never answer my notes. Mom grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the door. Ryan raised the knife instinctively, not at us, just holding it. Dad came, storming in seconds later, wrench in hand. "Put that down, kid." Ryan froze. Alan appeared behind him. I didn't even hear him come in, panting. "Ryan, what the hell?" Alan yanked the knife from his son's hand and shoved him back, toward the window. "Get outside! Now!" Police sirens wailed minutes later. They took Ryan away in handcuffs, Alan shouting something about medication and episodes. Mom cried into Dad's chest while I sat on the stairs shaking, trying to breathe. Ryan was sent to a psychiatric facility a few towns over. The Hawthorns moved within a month. For a while, I thought that would be the end of it. But sometimes when I walk home from work, I still feel eyes on me. Once, last winter, I found another note tucked under my car windshield. It said, "You shouldn't close your curtains." No one ever found out how he got out. I never thought I'd be afraid of the sound of my own front door. But that was before last winter. Before I learned that sometimes fear doesn't announce itself with screams or blood. Sometimes it shows up quietly, one creak at a time until it's living inside your walls. It started on a Saturday night like any other. I'd just turned 24, working full-time at a little local law firm in Columbus, Ohio, and weekends were my way to breathe. My best friend Bree was the kind of person who could talk anyone into going out, even someone like me who'd rather curl up with a blanket and crime documentary. "Come on, Lila," she said, tugging at my arm as I stood in front of the yellow mirror. "You've been cooped up all week. We're not doing anything wild, I promise. Just drinks and bad karaoke." I sighed, brushing my hair back. "You said that last time and I woke up with glitter in my shoes," she smirked. "Exactly. Good memories." By 10 p.m., we were at Murphy's Tavern, our usual spot, a mix between a dive bar and a broken jukebox museum. The air smelled like old beer and buffalo wings. The lights were dim enough to hide regret, and the regulars already knew our names. We found our friends, Rachel and Steph, in a booth near the back. Music blared from a speaker that buzzed every few seconds. We ordered drinks, laughed, sang horribly off-key to early 2000s pop songs. It was the first time in weeks I'd felt halfway normal. That's when I noticed him. He was sitting alone 2 tables away, maybe late 20s, brown jacket, close-cropped hair, and that kind of quiet face you wouldn't remember unless you tried. He wasn't handsome, not in the traditional sense, but there was something focused about him, like he saw everything. At one point, when I looked up, he was already looking back. I smiled politely, the way women are taught to when they don't want to seem rude. He nodded once. "Guy at 10 o'clock, Bree whispered, leaning close. "He's totally checking you out." I rolled my eyes. He's probably just bored. But a few minutes later, when I went to the bar to grab another drink, he was suddenly beside me. "Vodka soda, right?" he said. I blinked. "Sorry?" "That's what you ordered last time, a couple minutes ago." I laughed nervously. "Wow, someone's observant." He smiled, small, deliberate. "Just good memory. I'm Nate. Lila." We chatted for a few minutes, small talk about music, the crappy weather, how this bar probably hadn't been cleaned since 2008. He seemed normal enough, maybe a little intense but polite. When I rejoined my friends, Bree mouthed, "Who's that?" I shrugged. "Just some guy." That should have been the end of it, but as the night blurred, shots, laughter, and the familiar drunken shuffle, toward closing time, I remember Nate appearing again, standing by the exit, jacket zipped, giving me a small wave as I left. "Nice meeting you, Lila," he said. "You too," I replied, and then stumbled home under the orange streetlights. Didn't think I'd see him again. My apartment was on the top floor of an old duplex, the kind of place that creaked even when no one was moving. My little brother Mason stayed over sometimes when our mom worked nights, but that weekend I was alone. I lived close enough to the bar that I usually walked. That night, I got home around 1 a.m., half dizzy, half sober. I remember fumbling under the potted plant beside the steps for the spare key. It was a habit, safer than losing my keys while drunk, or so I thought. Inside, I kicked off my boots, texted Bree, me, "You get home okay?" Bree, "Yeah, girl, you disappeared fast, me. Got tired, lol, Bree. That guy was weird. BTW me." "Who?" Bree, the one who kept buying drinks. "Said he knew you from somewhere, me. Wait, what? Nate? Bry. Yeah, that's the name. Left right after you did." My stomach twisted a little, but I brushed it off. I figured she was exaggerating. I crawled into bed with my clothes still on, phone still glowing beside me, and drifted in and out of sleep. Then, the sound. Click. It was faint, downstairs. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then it came, again, the unmistakable sound of the front door opening. My eyes snapped open, I froze, listening. Footsteps, slow, careful. "Mason?" I whispered, my voice barely there. No answer. I reached for my phone, but my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. "Me, you home?" "Mason." "What?" "No, I'm at Dylan's." "Why?" My stomach dropped. The footsteps were on the stairs now. "Hello?" I called out. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, soft breathing, right outside my door. My phone buzzed again. Bree's text, "Beer I just realized that guy left the bar right after you. He was staring when you walked out. Be careful, okay?" The doorknob turned. I sat up, paralyzed. The door creaked open an inch. "Who's there?" I said louder now. The door shut again, but I didn't hear anyone walk away. They were standing there, still, listening. That's when I dialed 911, whispering to the operator that someone had broken in. As I turned on my bedside lamp, the light filled the room, and I screamed. There was a man standing in the corner by the door, not moving, not speaking, just watching. When I screamed, he flinched, turned, and bolted. I heard him crash down the stairs and slam through the front door. The dispatcher kept talking in my ear, telling me to stay on the line until officers arrived. My whole body was trembling so hard it felt like my bones were vibrating. When the police came, they found a key still in the front lock. My key, the one I kept under the flower pot. He'd been there when I got home, watching, waiting for me to use it. The officer, a man named Diaz, tried to calm me down. "You did the right thing, miss. We'll circle the area tonight." I couldn't even speak. The next morning was blurrier than the hangover. I sat at the kitchen table in my pajamas staring at the coffee I couldn't drink. Mason came home from his friend's house, pale as a ghost, when I told him. "You're kidding," he said. "What did he look like?" I told him what I remembered. Mid to late 20s, beard, brown jacket. "You sure it wasn't someone from the bar?" I nodded. "It was him. I just know it. That afternoon, I texted Bree me. Cops said he used my spare key. Beer holy shit." I told her he was bad news, me. "They're gonna patrol tonight, but IDK, Bree. I'll stay over if you want me." "No, it's fine. I'm changing the locks." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me flinch. I left the lamp on, stared at the door, waiting. Nothing happened. But 2 days later, when I checked the mail, there was an unmarked envelope in my box. Inside, a Polaroid photo of me, taken from outside my living room window. My hands went numb. The next few weeks were a blur of fear and exhaustion. I moved the spare key, got cameras installed, filed a report. The police took the photo but didn't promise much. "Could be a prank," one of them said. A prank. Every night I'd double-check the locks, close the blinds, leave the hallway light on. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was nearby. Once I woke up to motion alerts on my phone. The camera picked up something at 3:12 a.m. It was grainy but clear enough. A man standing at the bottom of my porch steps, looking up. The timestamp showed he'd stayed there for 6 minutes, just standing. I stopped going to Murphy's Tavern. I changed my route to work. I deleted my social media, but it didn't matter. One afternoon, I came home early from work, around 4:30. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and immediately froze. The living room smelled different, like cologne, and there, on my couch, was a folded hoodie. A man's hoodie. I backed out of the house instantly, heart pounding, and called 911 again. By the time police arrived, whoever had been there was gone. No sign of forced entry, just that hoodie and a note inside the pocket. Missed you last night. I started staying with Bree for a while. She lived with her boyfriend in a small apartment above a bakery downtown. I felt safer there. Cameras, noise, people always around, but even then it followed me. I started getting anonymous texts from random numbers. You shouldn't have called the cops. You look pretty when you're scared. It's not over. I changed my number twice, it didn't stop. One night, around midnight, Bree's boyfriend came to my room. "Hey," he said, holding his phone. "Is this you?" He showed me a picture posted on some anonymous local page, a candid photo of me taken through a window captioned, "She thinks she's safe." I threw up. We filed another report, but there was nothing concrete. He never left fingerprints, never broke anything. He was always just close enough to remind me he was real. Months went by. I moved apartments, and this time across town. No forwarding address, new phone number, new locks, new everything. I finally started to breathe again. Until last week. I was leaving work, it was dark and raining, and as I reached my car, there was a note tucked under my windshield wiper. "It's been a while," that was all. And when I looked up across the parking lot, I saw a man leaning against a streetlight in a brown jacket. He smiled, small, deliberate, just like the first night at Murphy's. I got in my car and locked the doors, heart slamming, so hard it hurt. I drove straight home, every turn checking my rearview mirror. When I got inside, I slid to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. I called the police again, and all I could manage to say was, "He found me." Because he always did. Now, it's been 3 nights. I haven't left my apartment, the blinds stay shut, the lights stay off. I keep my phone on the nightstand and a kitchen knife under my pillow. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time. Every few minutes I hear something outside, the crunch of gravel, the faint tap of metal against glass. I told myself I was paranoid. That trauma can trick you into seeing ghosts where there are none. But tonight, when I glanced at my phone camera feed, there was motion again. 4:47 a.m. The camera showed the front door and someone kneeling down beside it. I zoomed in, holding a flower pot, the same kind I used to hide my spare key under, and he was smiling. I moved to the town of Fairhill in the late fall of 2018. The kind of place you could drive through in 5 minutes without realizing it even had a name. There was a main street with a faded post office, a liquor store that closed by 9, a family-owned laundromat, and a Dunkin' Donuts that sat on the corner next to an old gas station that hadn't pumped gas since 2002. The Dunkin' was where I ended up working after losing my last job. I'd been a line cook for a few years at a diner over in Erie, but it burned down that summer. I didn't have much to fall back on. My credit was shot, my savings were gone, and I was renting a small studio apartment above a hardware store, where the pipes clanged every time someone flushed. At 28, I thought my life would be more stable by then, but the truth was, I was barely keeping it together. The Dunkin' job wasn't glamorous. It paid minimum wage, and my shift started at 4:30 in the morning, which meant waking up around 3:30 to shower and walk through the cold streets. But I didn't mind. There was something calming about the emptiness before sunrise. The quiet, hum of the refrigerators, the streetlights buzzing, the smell of yeast and sugar that clung to my clothes long after I'd left. The first person I met there was Kyle, the night baker. He was a heavy-set guy, early 40s, always wearing the same beanie that looked like it hadn't been washed since Bush was president. He didn't talk much, just nodded when I said good morning and kept kneading dough like it was therapy. Then there was Tina, the morning supervisor, the kind of woman who looked tough until she smiled. She had that voice that could cut through the noise of the blenders and the drive-through speaker like a knife. She was sharp, strict, but fair. And then there was Alex. He started about a week after me. Alex was maybe mid-30s, thin, pale, with dark blonde hair that always looked a little greasy. He said he'd just moved to Fairhill from Buffalo after a bad breakup. He had one of those soft, polite voices like he was always trying not to bother you. At first, I didn't think much of him. He was quiet, punctual, always volunteered for closing shifts. He'd sometimes bring in extra pastries from the night before, saying he didn't like to see food go to waste. We'd talk casually during cleanup about movies, weird customers, or how corporate kept cutting corners. He wasn't the kind of guy you'd think of as threatening. Honestly, he seemed lonely more than anything else. The first time something felt off was a Tuesday morning in December. It was 5:15 a.m. The store had just opened, and I was working the front register. There were two regulars sitting near the window, one old guy reading the paper, another on his laptop. When I noticed Alex wasn't behind the counter anymore, I figured he'd gone to restock the donuts or grab something from the back. But when I glanced up at the security mirror, I saw him standing in the lobby near the far table, staring at a young woman who'd just come in. She was maybe mid-20s, long brown hair, still in her nurse scrubs. She ordered a coffee and sat near the window, scrolling through her phone. Alex just stood there behind the counter for a moment too long, watching her. It wasn't obvious at first. He didn't smile, didn't say anything, but something about the way he looked at her made my stomach tighten. Like his gaze wasn't curiosity, it was something else. When I turned to make a latte, he finally moved, pretending to wipe down the tables near her. He asked if she needed a refill. She said she was fine, politely. Then, after she left, he just stood by the door for a second, staring out as her car pulled away. That was the first time I noticed the shift in him. Over the next few weeks, he started showing up early for shifts he wasn't even scheduled for. He said he liked the quiet. But sometimes when I got there, before opening, I'd find him already inside, sitting in the dark with just one light on, sipping coffee. "Man," I joked once, "you trying to live here or something?" He smiled without looking at me. "Feels like home." At the time, I laughed it off, but something about the way he said it stuck in my head. Around mid-January, the weather turned brutal. Snow piled up knee-high overnight, and every morning the parking lot froze over into slick glass. We were down 2 employees from the flu, so I was picking up double shifts. That's when I started noticing things in my apartment. Small, subtle things, like my coffee mug moved from the counter to the sink, or my jacket folded over the chair. Differently than I'd left it, I lived alone. The landlord, a retired guy named Mr. Hendricks, lived downstairs. He never came up without notice, and the front door had 2 deadbolts. But I still found myself double-checking the locks every night. One night I came home from a late shift around 11:45. I kicked off my boots, dropped my keys on the counter, and froze. The window above the sink, which I always kept latched, was open. Snowflakes were blowing in through the gap, melting on the tile. I checked the lock. It wasn't broken, just unlatched from the inside. I told myself maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe I'd opened it earlier and spaced out. But that explanation didn't sit right. I barely slept that night. Every creak from the floorboards downstairs made my heart jump. The next morning at work, I mentioned it to Alex casually, just in conversation. "Man, I think someone was in my apartment last night." He looked up from the counter. "You sure?" "Pretty sure." Window was open. Stuff moved around. He smiled faintly, but his eyes didn't match the smile. "Maybe your landlord checking on the pipes or something." "Nah, he always calls first." He wiped the same spot on the counter 3 times. "Maybe you shouldn't live alone then. Makes you easy to forget." The way he said it froze me for a second. "Easy to forget?" I repeated. He didn't answer, just turned and walked to the back room. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I tried to distract myself, turned on the TV, made instant noodles, scrolled through my phone, but every sound outside felt amplified. A car door slamming, a muffled cough from the alley. Then around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Hey, you home?" I frowned. No name, no emoji, just those 3 words. "Who is this?" I replied. No answer. A few minutes, later another message. "You left your blinds open." My heart dropped. I went to the windows and saw that the blinds were, in fact, slightly open. I hadn't noticed. I stepped back quickly, turned off the lights, and peeked through the slats. There was nobody there. Just the dimly lit street, snow blowing under the lamplight. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I was dead on my feet. Tina took one look at me and said, "Jesus, you look like hell, man." I told her I thought someone was messing with me, maybe following me. She frowned, said to be careful, maybe stay with someone for a few nights. Alex walked in halfway through the conversation. He poured himself coffee, eyes flicking between us. "Everything okay?" he asked, almost too casually. "Yeah," I said quickly, but the smirk that played on his face told me he'd heard enough. Over the next week, the texts kept coming. Sometimes it was simple stuff. "You work too much. You shouldn't walk home so late. That red hoodie looks good on you." I changed my number. The messages stopped for 3 days, then started again, from a new number. I went to the police station and filed a report. The officer on duty, a guy named Deputy Lang, took down the details but didn't seem overly concerned. "Could be a prank," he said. "Happens sometimes. Someone gets your number from a receipt or a friend." He told me to block the numbers and keep my doors locked. That was it. By February, I was running on fumes. My hands shook from too much caffeine and too little sleep. I caught myself snapping at customers, dropping orders, forgetting simple things. One afternoon after closing, I realized my backpack was missing from the break room. Inside it were my apartment keys, my wallet, and my phone charger. I searched the entire store and nothing. I figured maybe I'd left it in the back office. I went in, flipped on the light, and stopped cold. My bag was sitting on the desk, unzipped. Inside, everything was there, except my keys. My stomach twisted. When I turned around, Alex was standing in the doorway. "Looking for something?" he asked. "Yeah, my keys." He tilted his head slightly. "Keys are important. People don't realize how much of their life depends on them." I stared at him. "Did you see them?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe check the parking lot." I brushed past him and went outside. The lot was empty except for my car, snow half covering the hood. I got down on my knees, digging through slush with my bare hands. No keys. When I turned around, Alex was watching from the doorway. He waved. That night, I borrowed Tina's spare lock key and replaced the front lock on my apartment. The next morning, when I left for work, there was an envelope taped to my door. No name, no address. Inside was a Dunkin' Donuts napkin and my old apartment key. No note, just the key. I called the police again. They came, took another report, said they'd look into it, but I could tell they didn't have much to go on. The next day, Alex didn't show up to work. Then 2 days passed. Then a week. Tina said he quit without notice. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't. Because sometimes, late at night, I'd still get that crawling feeling in my gut. That invisible pressure in the room that made you turn your head just to make sure you were still alone. 3 weeks later, just when I was starting to relax, I came home from work to find my door unlocked. I froze. Inside, everything looked normal, except for one thing. On the kitchen counter, sitting perfectly centered, was a Dunkin' Donuts cup. Medium size, cream, and 2 sugars. The same order Alex always drank. I stared at it for a full minute before slowly picking it up. The coffee inside was still warm. That night, I drove straight to a motel on the edge of town. The room smelled like old cigarettes and mildew, but it felt safer than my own place. I barely slept. Every sound, footsteps in the hall, the hum of the vending machine, sounded like someone breathing outside my door. When the morning light finally broke through the curtains, I packed my things and went to Dunkin' to quit. Tina looked surprised but didn't argue. "You do what you gotta do, honey," she said softly. You don't owe anyone here your sanity. I nodded, thanked her, and left. I moved 2 towns over after that, changed my number again, started working at a mechanic's shop. For a while, things were quiet. I started to feel normal again, until last month. I was driving home from work when I stopped at a Dunkin' to grab coffee, a different one, in a different town. When I got to the counter, the young woman taking my order smiled and said, "Hey, we have a new night manager starting soon. You probably know him. Said he used to work in Fairhill." I froze. "What's his name?" She thought for a moment. "Alex, you know him?" I forced a smile. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I know him." That night, I couldn't bring myself to drink the coffee. I just drove home in silence, gripping the wheel, checking my mirrors every few seconds. I don't know if he's still watching me. I don't even know if he ever stopped. All I know is, every time I pass a Dunkin' now, I see that same pink and orange glow, and my stomach knots up, because no matter how far I move, or how much I try to start over, some people don't want you to forget them, and some places never really let you leave.